thumbnail. For this one, I'm kind of having fun with it. I'm not going to do it, obviously, all the time. And it will disappear again, but I kind of have fun doing it, admittedly, because it's so ridiculous, but today, I'm doing a gum chewing ramble on my favorite era of video games. I've talked about this era before, but never, I feel like, in depth. But it's the 16-bit era. I have some Genesis stuff here, some Super Nintendo, a couple of Super Famicom, just to kind of show some of the other games I really enjoyed that I originally had back in the day on the Super Nintendo. I do not have any, unfortunately, any TurboGrafx stuff anymore. I will talk about TurboGrafx 16 as well. But I real quickly wanted to show my original F-Zero manual. This is from the original copy I had back in the day. I had gotten this game before the system came out. I did the same thing on the TurboGrafx as well with China Warrior. For some reason, I still have the manual, though. I just want to show that real quickly. That was the first game I had for the system. I believe it came out in 91. Genesis was 89. The TurboGrafx might have been 89 as well, but the TurboGrafx might have even been 88. I could be completely off on that, but Super Nintendo and Genesis are my two favorite consoles. They can swap 1 and 2 depending on how I'm feeling. I love it. Everybody has the generation they enjoyed. I started off with 8-bit stuff. On Patreon, I do have. I'm going to be doing. I'll link my Patreon if anyone's interested. I'm going to be doing a Patreon only kind of going through my video game years. I just did a video. I filmed it today as well. Although this is not going up on Tuesday when I'm filming it. That video will be. We're going to go through each kind of generation and talk about memories and favorite games and stuff. And stuff like that. Nostalgia and all that shit. I want to do that exclusively for Patreon. But for this, for Slip in the Shadows, I want to specifically talk about my favorite generation in a longer video. But I have games here. I'll grab them and talk about them as I go. I'll talk about the TurboGrafx 16 briefly here in the beginning. Unfortunately, I have no games. I've talked about one of my greatest gaming regrets on this channel. I owed my friend like $60 back in like 06. I think I borrowed some money from him to buy Elder Scrolls Oblivion for 360, and I had to get a memory card. Actually, I think I borrowed $100 from him because I had just like bought the 360. I didn't have any money at the time. I could have waited like a week or two and just not gotten rid of my TurboGrafx. Because I gave him $40 and I gave him my TurboGrafx and a bunch of games. Now, admittedly, that was 06. I would have sold that by now. Let's be honest. There's a great chance it would have been gone. But I was like, why did I do that? I should have just waited like a week or two and then just given the $100 full when I had it. Because I enjoyed the hell out of TurboGrafx. Now, that was more, it was like an 8-bit system with 16-bit colors. It wasn't like a true 16-bit system. But it had a lot of great games. After I'd given it to him like in 07 or something, I had sold Splatterhouse, Bonk's Adventure. I still have a couple manuals lying around, I believe. But I had the first 2 Bonk's games. I had Splatterhouse, which is fantastic. China Warrior, as I talked about, I had before I got the system. Keith Courage and Alpha Zones, I still have the comic that came with that. That was bundled in with the TurboGrafx. I said Vigilante. Bloody Wolf was another top-down kind of game in the vein of Commando or Mercs. It was probably before Mercs. Stuff like that. Akari Warriors. There's a lot of top-down games like that, right? Bloody Wolf was awesome. I had that. I had Pac-Land. I had King of Casino. TV Sports Football. TV Sports Baseball. I had a couple others. Legendary Axe. I believe I had Legendary Axe. I think that's what it's called. There was another one. Dungeon Explorers one I had, which is cool. This kind of dungeon crawler, I believe. The 2 Bonks were awesome. Bloody Wolf was awesome. Vigilante I really enjoyed. China Warrior was not good. It was like Kung Fu type game. I'm talking Kung Fu on the NES. It was like that. But the characters were like the whole screen. It was weird. Oh, I had a racing game, Victory Run, I believe it was called. The sport games were pretty decent. King of Casino, I played a ton of. It was just like 5-card blackjack, I think. It'd be craps and roulette. Pac-Man was pretty cool. Keith Courage was pretty cool as well. I think they were trying to make that like the mascot at first, but then it became Bonk. Although Bonk was on... there's a Bonk on the Super Famicom, which I have. I think it was Bonk 3, or Super Bonk. And they had made a Bonks for the NES. So they were pumping out shit on those systems anyway. TurboGrafx kind of disappeared. Not a lot of people had it. I knew one other person that had it. But I enjoyed it. It had the turbo buttons on the controller and stuff. Like you flip the thing up, the little thing, these little switch type things, turbo shooting and stuff. I did have the TurboGrafx CD as well, and I think I had Sherlock Holmes for it. That was it. But I had sold the. It was the TurboGrafx CD case. This is probably like 10 years ago. Still in Massapequa. And I sold that. Something happened. That was on eBay. I don't know if something happened on that and I got screwed out of some money. I cannot remember. But I remember I listed, like, this was back in like 07. I listed Bonks. It might have been King of Casino. It was like 4 games. Literally sold in like 5 seconds. And I did not sell them for more than like $40. Because the games weren't expensive in 09. Certain games for the systems were, but back then you'd still be buying stuff pretty cheap. Those 4 games now are probably like $150 for all of them. Maybe even more. Although King Casino, I feel, is still fairly cheap. Bonks has gone up in price. I don't know if Splatterhouse was part of that. It might have been. Now that's probably like a $100 game on its own, so maybe it's like $200. But I enjoyed my TurboGrafx. I loved it. I'm pissed I got rid of it. There's always part of me that wants to like buy it again with some games, but like, don't do it. It's a waste of money. There's no point. But I did enjoy my time with TurboGrafx, but I played a ton of it. But I played more of the Super Nintendo. And the Genesis I had gotten had come with, I believe it was Altered Beast. I should have busted out the Genesis that my friend had given me last year when I was up in New York. He's like, I'm getting rid of this stuff, you want it. It was the first model that had like the high definition graphics on the bottom. Then they had the Model 2, and there was a Model 3 that was tiny. I had a Model 2 at a point. Because I want to say I sold my first Genesis, and then I got a Model 2. But tons of great games for it. You know, Sonics were great. I don't actually own any of the Sonics right now for the Genesis. But Altered Beast came with it. Rise from your grave. It was like a 15-minute game. Welcome to your doom. And a lot of them were arcade games originally, like the Golden Axe games. I had Golden Axe 2, which was fantastic. I remember, I ended up getting both, but at the time, my mom was like, you can get one game. And we went to Toys R Us, and this is when you have the slips, right? You pull the slips out. What do you want for Christmas? You grab a slip, you think a game sold out, because there's no slips left. People bringing them home. And then you'd bring your slip in, and you would bring it. Anybody remembers this? Toys R Us had the room you'd go to bring your slip, and it was just walls of video games in this room. It wasn't a huge room. All video games. You're like, I want to get in there give me fucking 2 minutes in that fucking room. You know, when we went there, I was like, oh, I really want Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, and Shadow Dancer it was. It was Revenge of Shinobi, then Shadow Dancer, then I think the first Shinobi was on the Master System. Revenge of Shinobi was the second one. Then it was Shadow Dancer. Then Shinobi 3. It had a subtitle, I can't remember. It was like Revenge of the Return of the Ninja Master or something. That's the one where you bust out on a little surfboard, like a hoverboard. At one point, we were in the water. But it was between the two of them. She put the slips behind her back. I think I ended up getting Michael Jackson's Moonwalker first. Maybe for Christmas or something, ended up getting Shadow Dancer. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker was a cool game. It had the music in there. It was a cool game. It was also an arcade game. He would start dancing, Michael Jackson. The enemies would start dancing. That was a cool game. An expensive game now. I had rebought Shadow Dancer in like 2009, complete for $10. That's probably like $75 now. Shadow Dancer was awesome. So was Revenge of Shinobi. I never owned Shinobi 3. my friend did. I would borrow from him. That was a good one too. Great games, incredible soundtracks. Shadow Dancer, you had your dog with you too. But I remember that. I remember going up there getting games and shit. Shit like Quackshot. I owned. This is the one I had gotten. I talked about from the Toy Busters. $15, an incredible deal for this game now. I had this back in the day. It was a cool game. You play as Donald Duck. I sold my first, actually, I sold my first copy of Shadow Dancer at a garage sale for like $10. It was probably like 1993 or some shit. I forget when that game came out. That game might have come out like 91. It was $10 I'm selling it for. It was probably 50 when it came out. You play as Donald here. You have your plunger gun. But it's cool because you go to different areas. Some of the DuckTales games. But you'd have to go to different areas to get things to progress in further areas, which is cool. It's a really cool game. It looks really nice. $15 for this game complete with the tab thing, the tag or whatever. Incredible to get this at that price. Stuff like Mercs. I played this back in the day. I might have rented it. I never owned it. This is when I got off eBay. Awesome top-down game. It is like Bloody Wolf and all those titles. Enjoyable. This is Capcom, I believe, right? Echo was another classic, even though it was hard as shit. I think aliens get involved in this game at some point, which is funny. This is my original case and manual. It's not my original copy of the game. I would always rip the tabs off. I don't know why. It's like, but you play as Echo the Dolphin. You got to come up and get air. You dive and you're doing shit. Pain in the ass game. They made a second one. Then they made Echo Jr. And then like there was one on the Dreamcast, and then I think the same one came out on the PlayStation 2. And that was, I think, the end of Echo the Dolphin. But it was still like a cool game. You're jumping out of water doing flips, and then you start playing the game. Like, this is fucking hard. And this is one Castle of Illusion, which I got for $10 at the place, same place as Quackshot. Complete. Tabs missing, it's a little damage. A phenomenal deal for this fucking game. These are all genuine articles too. I took them apart. And Genesis cases, as I said in the past, the original Genesis case with the checkerboard pattern, nothing looks better on a game shelf, in my opinion. Out of any game with a case than the Genesis titles. The original one, when they had the red border, wasn't as good. Classic. Another great game with Disney characters made by Sega. Capcom would make them too, and other companies would make them. Those Disney games back then, anything Disney related games were typically good, like the DuckTales on the Super Nintendo, Tailspin, Chippendales Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck. They made some other ones too. I can't remember all of them, but there was a bunch of like Mickey and Donald games as well. World of Illusion, Land of Illusion, I think, and stuff like that for the Genesis. Super Nintendo had different ones, I believe. But just classic games. $10 for this. They look really good. They play fun. Genesis, I love. My friends and I would play the shit out of it. We'd play each other a lot in stuff like Madden. I have Madden 94. I feel like the Maddens don't hold up as well as some of the other sport games in that era. We play a ton of Madden. I remember a friend beat me like 100-14 in one of the Joe Montanas. Those were exclusive for the Genesis. He always reminds me. Remember that? I remember beating another friend in Madden. He was so pissed he wanted to like jump in front of a car. Badly. I don't think it was this Madden. It might have been like 93. Tecmo Super NBA Basketball. I originally had this on Super Nintendo. The Tecmos were great. I love this game. It keeps stats. You're playing through a season and shit. It was really fun. Like, the game wasn't as good as like NBA Live or something, but it was still a decent basketball game. But I used to play a ton of this, but on the Super Nintendo. Tecmo Super Bowl, which I owned originally on the Genesis, and I had it on Super Nintendo as well. I have them on both now. One of the best sport games, one of my favorite sport games. Arcade type football, but kept the stats and stuff, and it was just still fun to play. People still make homebrews of these games with the current teams, rosters and shit. Tournaments. Tecmo Super Bowl for the NES is probably the best one, but these ones are awesome too. The original's great too, but it didn't have all the teams. Just had, I think, had playoff teams, I think. Or just certain teams that they decided to pick. Super Bowl, though, awesome. I used to simulate through seasons for kicks, see who would win. It's just fun. It keeps the stats and everything. It was fun. Later on in the series, like Tecmo Super Bowl 2 and 3, I think 3 you could definitely trade, I believe. I don't know if you could do. And then they made one for PlayStation, which I got at a garage sale for cheap and ended up selling because I was like, I'm never going to play this. It was like $1.25 at a garage sale. And it sounds like $25, $30. The Tecmo Bowls have a slight amount of value for a sport game. They're the richer sport games. But this game was fun as shit. My friends and I used to play these games. A lot on the NES one we'd play. Then you got Lakers vs. Celtics, Bulls vs. Lakers, Bulls vs. Blazers. This was EA's first sport basketball shit. Then it was NBA Showdown 94. This had the side-to-side view. Then NBA Live 95. Turned on the angle. It's a better game for sure, but I love these games. My friends and I still play these. If my friend comes down here, when he comes down in August, we will play some Lakers vs. Celtics, or Bulls vs. Lakers, Bulls vs. Blazers. Now these three only have the playoff teams. This one only had This one only had like 8 teams. It had 4 teams from each conference, and then these two had all the playoff teams and the All-Star teams. These had the All-Star teams as well. Great music in these games by Ron Hubbard, I believe his name is. He did the Road Rash shit as well, which I think I have down here. He was all over the Commodore 64 as well with the soundtracks, but great music. The gameplay is fun. It's a bit slow. This is the one where Tom Chambers dunks from like just inside the 3-point line. He does like a triple pump from just inside the 3-point line. Guys had signature moves in them and stuff. Like Hardaway had the UTEP 2-step. And Jordan would have his move he did in the finals against the Lakers. All of them had special moves. Drexler did. I think Malone, Olajuwon, everybody that was in the game. But I used to play these. I remember playing, I think it was Lakers vs. Celtics, the first one, with my friend's older brother. I was in like 7th grade. He was probably in like 9th or 10th. And I remember his mom yelling at him, "You gotta take out the garbage." He's like, "In a minute, I'm in a bar burner." We were playing this game. It was intense. It was a close game. He's like, "I can't stop now." My friends and I will still play. Just great. I don't know. They don't play necessarily well now. They're very slow. You brick a lot of shots. But I still enjoy playing them. They don't play terribly, but the NBA Live's definitely played better. NHL 94. Still my favorite hockey game. My friends and I would play this in tournaments against each other. We had a little Stanley Cup. And then we would just, people stopped hanging out over the years. My friends and I would too, my other friends would still play. We would just choose a team and swap periods and play through the playoffs and shit. But this introduced a one-timer. Some of the versions of this have fighting in it, some do not, I believe. You could break the glass. The little guy would come up and pound on the glass, one of the fans. Penalty shots. Like, it was just it improved upon NHLPA 93. That one only had the first one only had the team license, I believe. Second one only had the player's license. This one had both. Battery backup. Just an awesome fucking game. It still holds up gameplay wise. I know things like NHL 21 or 20 have the 94 version where you could play it, which I played a ton of on Game Pass. I don't know, it was EA. No, I think it was EA Play. I wish they would make them this way. It would be cheap as shit. It could be a download only thing with seasons and stuff and trades. It'd be awesome. But man, this is my original boxing manual, but not the game. I love it. FIFA. My friends and I played a ton of the first FIFA. This had the same angle as like the NBA Lives and stuff. We always laugh because there was always a chant in this game. The crowds would be chanting. And one sounded like, "We pay all the rent. We pay all the rent." That's what it sounded like. This had teams from, I need to get some of the later FIFAs from this era because I only played this one. Other ones have more leagues in them and shit. This was just the World Cup teams at the time, I believe. It was fun though, man. This is another one that still holds up. This is my original, once again, case and manual, but not the game. But I did buy the game for like $5 on eBay. 16 meg. Bicycle kicks in here. The angle works perfectly for soccer too, that angle. Played a ton of this. I had the 4-tap thing, we plugged in the 4 controllers, play 2-on-2. And sometimes we just play 1-on-1, there'd be like either 4 or 8 of us. We'd play another tournament like NHL. You know, we have a small little bracket and stuff. But we played a ton of FIFA as well. And this is my full, all this, the game and everything, sports talk baseball. My friend and I still play this. Awesome sports game. This has the player's license, not the team's. It's still great. It still holds up. It's fun. There's only 3 stadiums. But you can play full seasons in this shit. Had all the players like different batting stances. Julio Franco actually had his batting stance. Dykstra, Lenny Dykstra, Kirby Puckett, Will Clark. Just a fun game that my friend comes down, we will play this again. But this is my full original copy of this game. I love sports talk. It's probably one of my favorite baseball games, honestly. Road Rash 2. The best of those 3 Road Rashes that came out on Genesis. I had all 3. This one's the best one. My friends and I will still play this shit. Great soundtrack, just a fun game. You're kicking, punching, using chains. Pipes on people and shit. The cattle prod, I think, got introduced in the 3rd one. You can run into cows on the road. Cops will pull you over. You'll be winning the race at the end. Hit something on the side of the road, go flying, and end up in 6th. You have to, like, run back to your bike. Fun game, though, with a great soundtrack. Still play this shit. We'd put in the cheat code, because you can buy different bikes. My friends and I would play it. We'd each take a race, gather up the money, buy different bikes. But we put in cheat code for, I think it was the El Diablo. It goes like 200-something miles an hour. It's like, you can't even control the thing. I love Road Rash. And one more game I have here. Where in the World's Carmen San Diego. I never owned this one when I was a kid. I had Where in Time. It came with a big encyclopedia. It was like small, but it was like this thick. These are great games, though. You go, you catch your henchman first. You go to different parts of the world, and you got to figure out where she's going next and stuff through clues. Fantastic games. Yes, this includes the World Almanac, I should say. They all came with it. I might still have that somewhere, or I threw it out. The thick Encyclopedia of the World. Almanac, I should say. But I love these games. There's a lot of other Genesis games I enjoyed. Like I said, the Sonics, the fucking Golden Axe games were cool. Road Rashes I loved. I had Shining in the Darkness was a great game. First person dungeon crawler. Then they turned into Shining Force, which was cool. I actually traded, this is obviously my original copy, but when I went to visit my brother, my half-brother, in Georgia in 94, I brought this with me, and he's like, oh, you know, I traded this for Shining Force. He had Shining Force. He wasn't into it. It was a role-playing game. Now, from a money perspective, now that game has a lot more value than this. At the time, I was like, oh, I had made that deal. But I did enjoy Shining Force. Never had the second one. E-SWAT was a game I loved. I had that. You're a cop, and then you get to like a certain point, and you get your robot suit. What else did I have? A lot of sports stuff. The men's, the NHLs, the Lakers vs. Celtics, and the NBA Lives. The Tecmo Sports Talk. I think I owned one of the MVP baseballs, but I think it was on Super Nintendo. Because it was totally the roots of baseball by EA. Then it moved into the other one. There was Home Alone, which I own. I had the Mortal Kombat's on the Super Nintendo, but the Blood was on the Genesis. That was a big deal, getting Genesis, getting that for the Super Nintendo Mortal Kombat. My friends and I would have sleepovers, play the shit out of that. Everybody played it in the arcade, put your quarters on the thing. It was such a big deal. I remember there was this one kid in Busy Bee Mall. You go to the small arcade they had. This one kid was great. He knew all the finishing moves. But it was just fun playing. Even if you got your ass kicked. You're like, this is incredible. And Street Fighter 2 was in there as well. On top of like stuff like NBA Jam and all types of arcade games, that ended up getting ported over to the Genesis Super Nintendo. What else I have for the old Genesis? I did not have Scooby-Doo Mystery. My friend did. My friend had Splatterhouse too. He still has those games. I'm always like, I'm taking it. Give me those games. Those games. Splatterhouse 2 and 3 for the Genesis have a lot of value. There's a Castlevania game, Bloodlines, I believe it was called, which is cool. I didn't own that. I borrowed that. My friend owned that. Ghouls and Ghosts was classic. That was a great game. There was Strider on there. What's the Strider called? Last Battle was an early game that was very similar to Kung Fu as well, and China Warrior. My friend had that. What else did I have? Centurion, Defender of Rome. I had NBA Jam on Super Nintendo. Man, what else did I have? I'm really trying to think of these games. I can't fucking remember them. Like I said, I had Echo. I had Columns. It was a cool puzzle game. I had Columns. I had a ton. Buster Douglas boxing, I remember. I remember a friend getting pissed. I beat him and he smashed the controller. I used to get pissed too. I used to get fucking pissed at fucking up with games back when I was younger. I think a lot of people did. Buster Douglas boxing was cool. Vector Man. There was a ton of shit. A ton of cool stuff. For the Genesis, like I said, I had Sonic and Sonic 2. I did not play the other ones back in the day. I had got them at garage sales later on and stuff. But the first two were awesome. A lot of nostalgia with the Genesis and the Super Nintendo. Wait a minute. I know you want to go out on the porch. I'll let you out of the video. Hello, Genesis, my friend. I used to have a setup in my room where I have the small TV, 13-inch, 19-inch, and my Commodore 64. I have a Genesis and Super Nintendo on it, or an NES, depending. And we'd play for like 20 minutes and we'd swap and go around the other ones. So, Genesis was fantastic, though. I love the Genesis. Still the best game cases. Loved it. EA always had the fatter cases for some reason. I don't know why. I had a bunch of other games. Not a bunch of other games, but I did have other games. I can't remember a lot of them now. But those are like a lot of my favorites. For sure. Now to the Super Nintendo. Got stuff like Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Like I said, my first game was F-Zero. I don't own it anymore. It's not an expensive game, but just the manual. But F-Zero, Pilot Wings, Super Mario World, which I had. Where is it? Oh, there it is. The Super Famicom version. It just came with the system. When you played this, you were like, holy shit. Because the Genesis didn't have as good of colors and graphics overall. It was a faster system, even though both systems would have slowdown. Certain games would just run better on the Genesis. Sport games were better on Genesis. But the Super Nintendo looked better. Not by a shit ton, but it just had better graphics. But the Genesis was a faster system. Both systems had incredible soundtracks. Those composers, they're still making game soundtracks now. That freaking thing is making noise. Fridge. Super Ghouls and Ghosts, not as good as the Ghouls and Ghosts on Genesis. This one was a bit different. Both hard as hell. But Mario World, when you first played it, you were like, oh my god, Yoshi, it looked incredible. A much better, bigger overworld. Than it was in sections than Mario 3. Just losing it. Also hidden stuff in there as well. Just a fantastic. A lot of people's favorite Mario. It's one of my favorites. Stuff like ActRaiser. This is a Super Mario version. Incredible game. The second one was just a straight platform. This was world building and platforming. It was awesome. You'd be a little angel and you're building up the town for the people. And then you have to fight off little demons. Then you'd play as a dude, like come down from the heavens. And you play as a dude, you do the 2D stuff. Another great soundtrack. By the guy who did the soundtracks for Streets of Rage, I believe. Streets of Rage. I forgot about beat 'em ups for the Genesis, which were incredible. I forgot about the Streets of Rage games. I only had the first two. I think there was 3 of them. This game was incredible. There was movie tie-in games from... I might have to edit that out. About 30, 14. ActRaiser was incredible. There's a lot of exclusive. This was exclusive to Super Nintendo. As was this, Area 88. It was UN Squadron over here. This was based off an anime, which I watched on YouTube, which was a really good anime. It was an arcade game first. Another game with a fantastic soundtrack. Awesome shooter. It's a shoot 'em up planes. You buy different planes when you get more money. Just looks incredible graphically. I still play this game a ton. It's fucking awesome. It's hard as shit, but awesome game. Now you had the Final Fight beat 'em ups for this. Here's Final Fight 2. I had the first Final Fight for Super Nintendo. A little weaker than the arcade version. A lot of people say the definitive version of Final Fight is Final Fight CD for the Sega CD, which I did have a Sega CD. And I had a good amount of games for the Sega CD. If I want to talk about that for a second. Ground Zero Texas, Tomcat Alley, Prize Fighter, Sewer Shark. NHL 94. I had a couple other games too. Sonic CD I had. That game with Corey Haim, Double Switch I think it was called. There was Night Trap. But I'm not talking about that too much. It was cool, but Final Fight 2 they're cool beat 'em ups. A lot of good beat 'em ups throughout both generations. You had the more expensive ones for Super Nintendo, like Knights of the Round and shit like that. King of the Dragons or Something of the Dragons. There's a lot. Yeah, Turtles in Time for Super Nintendo. You had the Hyperstone Heist for the Genesis. Just a lot of great games. Here's Tecmo Super Bowl again. Incredible game. NBA Live 95 there. I played a ton of this game. I remember playing this game tripping out once. I might have talked about this. And I just was hucking up threes from half court. And I could swear I could see the rotation in the dude's wrist. When he shot it, I was like, this is insane. And half of these threes were going in. But I played a ton of this game. Psst. What are you crying about? Yeah, no, you want to go out. Yes. I'm almost done. Pain in the ass. Yeah, the Super Star Wars games, which are fantastic. My friends and I never really talked shit about what we thought was better. I was lucky enough and spoiled enough as an only child. Like I said, I had half brothers and half sisters. But my mom was an only child. I lived with my grandma, my aunt, my mom was a cohesive unit. I was spoiled, I can admit it. And it's not like they had incredible jobs. It's just stuff. No, games were not cheaper back then, by the way. Games would be $60, $70, $80, $90. A Link to the Past, an amazing, my favorite Zelda probably, was like an $80 game back then. Incredible fucking game. I remember selling that to GameStop in like 02. It might have still been Funkoland. Or 03. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get some credit for some Xbox or PS2 game, whatever it was. And I brought Final Fantasy 3 and Link to the Past in, and I think I got $13 for Final Fantasy 3 and $8 for Link to the Past. I kept the manuals and sold them on eBay years later in the maps. But even then, I was like, why am I doing this? I got like 20-something bucks, 21 bucks. I might have had some other bullshit that I sold too. And I got a game. I was like, what am I doing? Fuck. Not like they're like $5,000 games now, but I should have kept them. You had the Super Star Wars games. Hard games, awesome, great soundtracks. Looked incredible. Same thing as Indiana Jones. But like I was saying, my friends and I, we didn't talk shit to each other about it. Even like my one friend only had Genesis. He wasn't talking shit about Super Nintendo. I had another friend that only had Super Nintendo. Some had both. I had TurboGrafx as well, but no one gave a shit about that. And we would let each other borrow games. Like I said, we'd just go over, hang out, maybe play some basketball outside, go and play some games. Have sleepovers, you're playing fucking video games and shit. Go on our bikes, ride around, play Manhunt, and all that bullshit, and then come home and play some video games. It was fun coming home and just being, what am I going to play, you know? Renting a lot of games from Blockbuster as well, and other, back then. No matter what your town was, you typically had like 4 or 5 rental. On Long Island, where I was in Massapequa, there was like 10 video game rental stores. So certain games I would only rent and never buy or get for Christmas or whatever, birthday. Another fantastic sport game, Baseball Simulator 1000. Awesome game, as was Super Tennis, the sequel to tennis. And this was the sequel to Baseball Simulator on the NES. Great tennis game, still holds up in my opinion. My second favorite tennis game, behind Virtua Tennis on the Dreamcast. Baseball Simulator 1000 where you're throwing like super rocket pitches and your batters have like special powers and shit. It's a fun baseball game with a little sci-fi twist. Paperboy 2, cool game. First Paperboy was on the NES. I think the arcade games originally. This is also on the Genesis as well. I had a lot of cool games for it. I had Super Castlevania 4, which was fantastic. Love that game. Man, that's a lot of memories for that one. And it was just cool. You get the box. Now Genesis had the case, which was cool. Super Nintendo just had the boxes. Most of the time I threw the box out. With the case, I'm not throwing out the case. I should have just kept the boxes. I did that moving forward, like Nintendo 64. I would keep the boxes for that. But you get in the box, you open it up, you pull out the manual, they have the little pamphlets in there with Nintendo Power or upcoming games and shit. It was awesome. SimCity, another classic game. You leave it on overnight to build up money. It's a little trick you could do. That was originally like a PC as well, IBM, whatever, Apple. I brought it to Super Nintendo. But I had a lot of cool sport games on there. NCAA basketball was a great game. I had baseball, ESPN Baseball tonight, which was not outside of the home run derby. I had a couple NBA lives. I had a Madden on like I said, the sport games just played better on the Genesis, and they looked a little better too. I think graphically for some reason, I don't know why, than the Super Nintendo, because the Super Nintendo had more power. But cool. Stanley Cup hockey I had, which was pretty decent. It was made by the same people. NCAA basketball had the same kind of view and shit. Pilot Wings was a fucking fantastic game. So was Pilot Wings 64. But Link to the Past I remember loving so much. Super Mario World, Super Castlevania 4, Final Fantasy 2 and 3. Love them. Breath of Fire was a cool one. I had role-playing games made by Capcom. I think there was 2 on the Super Nintendo, and they made a couple more on the PlayStation. That was a cool fucking game. That had the kind of same viewpoint as the Shining Force and Shining Force 2, I believe. I didn't have a ton of the RPGs, admittedly. I had the 2 Final Fantasies, I had Link to the Past, action RPG or just turn-based. Breath of Fire had. But I didn't have some of the other ones that are like super expensive now. But NBA Jam, we played a ton of, and the Mortal Kombats, my friends and I played a ton of together. The Genesis one had the blood. But it was harder because, unless you had the 6-button controller, it was harder to do because the Super Nintendo had more buttons. But I just love that era. It was the second era I was into games, and I still love it. I can still play a ton of these games now. They hold up well, and I just love playing them. A lot of great memories, when you get a new game, and you're just like, holy shit. For me, that feeling went away, and the PS2 era, where you get a new game, it just felt like a big deal. 360 was still kind of there that era, but not really. And then it was completely gone after. Maybe because you have more money, you could buy more games. But there was still something when you got... The game releases felt more important back then, I feel. Even if you couldn't get them all. You're like, oh my god, Final Fantasy X, GTA 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, Silent Hill 2, oh my god, Like the choices meant more. I don't know, it was a different vibe. Maybe you guys have that same feeling. Tons of fun playing with friends back then and stuff like that. I love playing, just swapping off levels in certain games and shit. Man, what else I have for the Super Nintendo that I'm forgetting? I think I said most of them. I had more Genesis games, I think. I said F-Zero already. I had Mortal Kombat. I think I had all 3 Mortal Kombats. I might have the manual still for 3 floating around for the Super Nintendo. Like I said, NBA Jam as well. But I feel like I said a lot of the Super Nintendo games I had. I did have Paperboy 2 for the Super Nintendo back in the day as well. And Baseball Simulator, because I still have the manual for Baseball Simulator. But I loved the generation. It was fantastic. It was fun. All the games were fun. I just loved playing them. It was a different time. You're younger too, but I still play games. And this generation still is my favorite. Like, go back and play these games now and still enjoy them. Probably followed up by the PS2 Cube Xbox era is probably the second favorite era for me. But just wanted to talk about the 16-bit era and my love for it. And thanks for checking this out. And have a good day.